His Excellency Edward Ngirente, Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda. His Excellency Edward Ngirente, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda. The burden of malnutrition is high on the continent. So how can agriculture help tackle child and adult malnutrition? It's a huge issue on the continent, and we just need to fix this in very, very creative ways. If you could share with us what's happening in your country, we would very much appreciate it in Rwanda. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, moderator, and thank you for allowing us to, as you said, to speak from our hearts. And I think I'm going to speak from my heart too, because, and I won't take a lot of known, we have been discussing these issues, agriculture issues, different fora, and all those issues are known. And I think also the science is enough. It is just to go for tangible actions in Africa. And I know everyone here is at a certain level a decision maker, and we need to make decision ready to go for actions. When we talk about food security and the food sovereignty, that also implies talking about malnutrition, which is now a problem in Africa. And let's agree on a very simple definition. Malnutrition is considered for us as a shortage of food in quality and quantities. If you have enough food in quantity and the quality food, you don't have malnutrition in your country. Otherwise, you won't have malnutrition if people have access to quality food in enough quantities. So I will just share with you our Rwandan experience, what we are trying to do in our country. Because as I said, the science is known. I'm not going to go back to the science and the techniques, but I'm going to, it is just to go for tangible actions in Africa. And I know everyone here is at a certain level a decision maker, and we need to make decision ready to go for actions. When we talk about food security and the food sovereignty, that also implies talking about malnutrition, which is now a problem in Africa. And let's agree on a very simple definition. Malnutrition is considered for us as a shortage of food in quality and quantities. If you have enough food in quantity and the quality food, you don't have malnutrition in your country. Otherwise, you won't have malnutrition if people have access to quality food in enough quantities. So I will just share with you our Rwandan experience, what we are trying to do in our country, because as I said, the science is known. I'm not going to go back to the science and the techniques, but I'm going to just share with you our experience in Rwanda, what we are trying to do. There is, as you know, in Africa, these issues of shortage of food, of course, post-harvest losses, where we have that average in Africa, where we lose almost 40% of our production. And it's ridiculous to see that it's a shame on us to see that we have produced things and then we lose them by the time of harvesting. There is that issue of financing, which is a financing gap in the agriculture sector has been there for long, and then the use of modern techniques and fertilizers. So what we're trying to do in Rwanda, I will just mention just three things among others. First of all, we want to make our sector, agriculture sector, attractive. And we know we are working with aging population in agriculture sector in Africa, all over in Africa. The population in agriculture is really an aging population. And what we are trying to do is to attract youth in this sector and make the sector attractive. Doing that, we had to de-risk our agriculture sector. And de-risking the agriculture sector, it means to remove all perceptions which people think that agriculture is a sector which in which only poor people would be working, there's no money in agriculture. All those perceptions, to remove them, we had to make agriculture attractive. And what we have done, we have now put in place an insurance scheme. That's one, because you have to have insurance in agriculture so that if there is any loss, people can be covered. This is what we have done in agriculture in Rwanda. We have now an insurance scheme which covers both crops and livestock. The second one is to attract financing in agriculture. You know, when you have interest rates at rate of double digit. Normally in agriculture things don't work. We're trying to make sure that we have a program where we can have people in agriculture can borrow on interest rate as single digits, less than 10%. There's a program now happening where people will be borrowing at a rate of between 8 and 10% so that people can have access to finance. That is a process of de-risking agriculture. The third one is also, of course, to make sure that the land is available for agriculture. Now, the second thing we're trying to do in Rwanda is the post-harvest handling. We are now establishing across the country post-harvest handling facilities across the country to make sure that at least that post-harvest loss doesn't happen in Rwanda. That's the second key element on which we're working in agriculture in Rwanda. Then, because of the climate change, we are working on the way we can increase the coverage of irrigation in Rwanda. We have a huge project now, almost 300 million US dollars, where we want to make sure that the irrigation scheme in Rwanda can cover all key areas where we have a land consolidation program. Then the fourth one is the use of IT in tools in agriculture to make sure that the people have access to information in terms of climate change, climate or weather, and then people have information in terms of financing, people have information in terms of inputs. And then, of course, the last one is the use of enough fertilizers in our agri-system, because as you know, in Africa, we have really the lowest rate of use of fertilizers. In Rwanda, we have reached the level of 60 kilogram by hectares, but we are still trying to increase that rate to make sure that at least the use of fertilizers, we can reach by 2084 at least 85 kilogram by hectares. So those are key aspects we're working on to make sure that you have enough food and you have we have enough food so that you can fight malnutrition. But to conclude my statement here, I want to say that what we need to do is to go just for tangible action, make sure that in Africa the food is available at national level and at family level. The second one, we need to make sure the food is affordable at the national level and at family level. The third one is to make sure that there is access. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Edward Ngirente, Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda, for your very succinct submissions there. You talked about de-risking investments in agriculture through insurance, and that's absolutely important, particularly in Africa and in your region, which again suffers from the devastating effects of climate change. And that's not just a Rwandan issue, it is a significant African issue right now in terms of the impacts of climate change, single-digit financing, the engagement of IT, and the increased use of fertilizer. Again, a holistic approach to the development of agriculture and the acceleration of production. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.